So, Jim, do you want to start off? I don't think last time you told us how you got into the hobby. I don't, if you did, I apologize. I don't remember.
Okay, so I don't know if I did either, but I can start with that. So I got into the hobby probably as a kid with my dad having just freshwater tanks. And he just had angelfish and Jack Dempsey's and stuff like that. But I always liked them. Going to Shed Aquarium was always like one of my favorite things when I was a kid. So that was like a real cool trip. We weren't well off enough to go on like beach vacations and snorkel or any of that kind of stuff. So I didn't get to really see the ocean being in Chicago. But it always interested me. So then when I got out on my own, the first place I lived outside of my parents' house was a townhouse with 3 buddies, and one of them was pretty well off, and he got a saltwater aquarium when we were like 19. And I was just a 55-gallon standard aquarium with a sump, but it was 95. So it was the beginning of real saltwater aquariums. He had no clue what he was doing. We had one older friend who had a little bit of an idea of what to do. So like he had coral banded shrimp and, damsel and clown. And then he'd get some softy corals in there and they'd either die or flourish, but nothing really did super well. And it was so basic, but it was so cool. We'd just sit around it and we all loved it. So then when I got on my own, I got a 55-gallon tank and it was just cichlids and tetras and damn zebra. I can't remember what they're called. Little freshwater fish.
Is it the wee Danios?
Yeah, zebra Danios. So little shit. And then we moved to another place. I got that back up and running and had some silver dollars and tetras. And those silver dollars are actually the ones that are in my work tank now. So they're 17 years old now. But when we moved here 10 years ago, I took that tank down and I told my wife I was going to start saltwater when we got here. So I had a LPS tank. I didn't do shit with it. I didn't take care of it. And LPS flourished, but I never had any SPS survive. So after a year buying like one frag here or there, I just stopped even trying and let the LPS flourish. The yellow tang in here, the tomato clown, and one of the azure damsels. Those 3 fish were the 3 first fish I bought, and they did well in 55. And you can see the yellow had a little fin rot once, and I cleaned it up and got him healthy, but it scarred his fin a little bit. But other than that, they did well. I lost a couple fish in that tank. Some good, some bad, but I kind of found out with the amount of work I put into that tank and the filtration system I had, though 3 fish in that 55-gallon was kind of maxing out what I could manage. So they just worked out. They got comfortable. They did their thing, and that tank did well. And it got taken over with blue clove polyp coral. And I got tired of fighting it off and tried all sorts of different things to kill it. And it just would always come back. So I pretty much didn't put anything from that tank into this tank. I did not want the chance of any of that coming back and taking over this system. So the only thing that went from that tank to this tank were the fish and some of the frog spawn, which I cleaned off with basically with an eye loop to make sure there was no particles of that blue polyp coral on them. And the frog spawn grows like weeds, and it did well, and everything else I ditched. There were some zoa colonies, mushroom colonies, toadstools. For a period of time, there was and the anemone. I moved the anemone over too. So that's how I got into it. And then I told my wife, well, we wanted to get wood floors put in the upstairs, and I said, well, I don't want to deal with moving a tank around, so I'm just going to take this tank down, and I want to set something up in the basement. So I started looking around, and I was watching YouTube like crazy. The people who I followed were more and admired what they were doing more than anyone else was like Sanjay and Paletta. So I liked those two. I liked their philosophies. I liked their kind of like brotherhood they had within the hobby. How they kind of feed off of each other and accept each other's flaws. And Sanjay laughs at Mike for, doing changes nonstop, and Mike respects Sanjay for his kind of patience, even though that's not him. And I just kind of like those two. So I loved Sanjay's tank. I could not afford a 3-foot front to back tank. I couldn't fit a 3-foot front back tank in here. So I just searched and searched and searched and found this used 180 acrylic up in Madison, Wisconsin. And I went up there, took a look, and I bought it. So I think I paid $600 for this with a bunch of live rock, or not live rock, dead rock. And that's how this system started. So I shopped for a tank, and once I got the tank, then I started doing my build, because it's all custom. So the stand and everything had to be built around the tank. So that's kind of how I started.
I had absolutely no idea that tank was secondhand.
You had what?
I had no idea the tank was secondhand.
Yeah, secondhand. So I polished it out. There were some scratches. There's still a ton of scratches. Like I keep scratching it and thinking, oh, fuck. And I'm like, it doesn't really bother me. But I hear everybody complain about scratching their tank and freaking out, and it bothers the shit out of them. And I'm just like, I scratched it up. Well, I got to keep that area a little cleaner now, because algae is going to form there a little bit more. But if I really want to look at my tank clean, those weird ass white magic pads, if I get in and clean the scratches with the magic pads, you can't even see them. So it gets all the algae out from inside of them. Any other questions how I started, or you want me to start telling you how I started this system?
Dig in, bro.
Dig in? Okay.
Yeah.
So once I bought the tank, I did a field test, did polishing, and I started designing the stand and the hood. And I knew I wanted the lights enclosed, because I can't stand seeing the glare from underneath an open exposed light. I get bad migraines, so controlling light that could kind of look as like a little blur or some sort of glare will trigger my migraines. So I knew I wanted the hood contained. I knew I wanted to use a 55-gallon sump, because my tank is 24 tall, 18 front to back, and 96 inches long. So I needed something that was long and skinny to be my sump. I was not paying $400, $500 for a sump. So I built my sump from a 55-gallon. I can show you. Hold on one second. Okay. So the sump was 55-gallon. Let's see. I've got my drain container here, and now I've got two, because I have the frag tank plumbed in, and it goes to this first container. I used to use this filter sock. Now the only thing that goes into that filter sock is my carbon return. So here I've got a baffle system to try and catch debris. You can see there's some shit down there building up, but whatever, lots of little snails. And then it goes into my skimmer chamber, and this one also catches debris, but past that I don't really get any detritus or mulm or anything. This is also where I have my 2 heaters. It goes to a bubble trap, so up, down into some rock. And this rock I need to put some more in here. I just use this if I want to start a new tank or put a new tank to try and get more filtration. Like I put a few pieces into the frag tank, even though it probably didn't need it because it's run through this, but I still put them in there. And then this goes over into what was originally designed to be like a bag kind of location where I could put filter media, bio balls, stuff like that, or bags of carbon before I got a dual reactor. So I didn't use it though. I kind of built this egg crate thing so I could set them at a higher level and pull them out easier, but I never used it. So I just dose into this chamber, and I could probably pull the egg crate out. And this just goes down and then back up to protect anything from getting into my return pump chamber. So you can see the bottom's pretty clean, and I've never vacuumed this the entire time I've had it. So it's been running for 3 years now, and I've never vacuumed this area. So this system catches almost everything before it gets to my return pumps. So then the return pumps just up. One goes to the back room, and one goes up into the tank. So let me turn the light off for that. Bear with me. All right.
It's all right.
So
I'll edit it out later.
So what's that?
I'll edit it out later.
I can't. What?
I'll edit it out later.
Oh yeah, you're gonna have to edit. Yeah.
Well,
Sorry,
I bet I
Ron.
fucking do. I bet I do.
Okay, so that's the sump. So I built that while I was, just kind of thinking about what to do, and then I started buying lumber to build the stand and the hood. I got those built, and then so let's see time frame wise. So the tank came. Bought the tank in May of 2020. Got the sump and everything else built in late July of 2020. So almost 2 months it took me to build the stands, build the sump. I had to buy it all. I had to buy the glass. Those are glass partition that are siliconed in. So I had to buy all of those. And by July 25th, 2020, I started filling the tank. So I plumbed it all and filled it. I built the rockscape. So you guys have seen the pictures of my rockscape. So it looked kind of shitty when I first built it, but the intent was kind of that 2/3 rule. So the left side had like 2/3 scape, and then the right side was an individual island, and that kind of worked. And then I also scaped it using a lot of nylon rods. So I don't know if you can even see them anymore. But like this is an individual scape, this rock and this overhang. So this is built with a rod straight up in the middle of this piece, so I could have this piece smaller at the bottom. and then there is that rod is attached to PVC that runs all the way over to here in a rectangle. So that's how this piece is supported to be able to stay up. So the base is under the sand all the way over to here. You can see, can you see back there, that little purple? That's part of it. So that's the base. And then like this one, I didn't need to do a base. This one was an individual structure. This one has, I don't know if you can see it, right in the middle there, there's a nylon rod. So this entire structure is a rod up to it. And this is a base that comes up, comes out, and comes up here, and then comes up with another one. So this was built with nylon rod. The U or the arc was not. So this base was built kind of an individual piece here, and then an arc that comes from front or from back to front here. And then this piece here was another base with a nylon rod. And that kind of connects to this one to make this all look like one big piece.
Did you do most of this construction in tank or out of the tank, Jim?
It was out of the tank. So the arc I built in two pieces. And then this area here was built to be able to kind of attach right here to the arc. This structure was built as a separate piece. This was built as a separate piece. This was a separate piece, and then this was a separate piece. And I had a hard time. Like I have the Euro brace top with 3 cutouts, so I couldn't get a big piece into this tank. So I had to build it in pieces and assemble it in the tank. But it was all built with dry rock, E-Marco cement. I drilled holes just with a hammer drill and a cement drill. So, and it worked out great. I just slid it right over the nylon rod, and there we go. So that worked great. And at that point, I planned on using the tank as a cycle. So it had dry sand, dry rock, and I was just going to let the tank cycle for however long it took, let the rock cure for however long it took, and take it slow. Everybody's rushing these tanks. I feel everybody wants to get coral in their tanks right away. I'm just kind of like, fuck it. I want to get coral that's going to survive in my tank. So whatever it takes, I'm just going to go slow. So everything was kind of on a budget, including the coral. Like I wasn't going to buy coral and just kill it just to see if it was going to survive. So real slow. So like I said, rock got moved in to start cycling and start curing July 25th, 2020. And actually no. So I filled it with water July 25th. I added the rock August 9th. So a whole nother almost a few weeks later till I got the rock in. And so August to October. So 2 months of the curing and the rock settling in. At that point, I moved my 3 fish from my old tank. So beginning of October 2020 is when the yellow tang, the azure damsel, and the clown moved in. So it took a while. I took it real slow. I moved the anemone in January. So I waited. I still didn't trust putting the anemone in because I didn't want to kill it. So then January, I moved the anemone in. And I started buying fish and quarantining fish and moving them in. And originally I used, I have 2 fish stores that I use. One of them has a ton of shit. And the other one is kind of like smaller, and the guy's a little goofy, but he has good shit. So of course, I went with the store that had a ton of shit to try and get like a variety, and almost everything I bought died. So I don't know if I was quarantining wrong or what was going on, but I lost a ton of fish. The only fish that I have in this tank from that store is the powder brown. Everything else, probably 10 other fish died. All the rest of the fish came from my other store, and that store, only a few fish have died. And some of them were my fault. Like I added 11 of the chromies, and I only have 7 left, but I watched them wither down and shrink in size when I was kind of nervous about nutrients. So I wanted to keep my nitrates and phosphates down. So I started feeding less and doing less, and that caused the fish to kind of starve. So I realized that was happening when I started losing a few of the chromas, and I started feeding tank again heavy, and they all bounced back, and I haven't had another one perish since then, which, I mean, that it's probably been 2 years, and the 7 that are left are healthy and breeding and doing well. So so that's good. And so then frog spawn. So January I moved the anemone. February I moved small pieces of the frog spawn in. That did fine as well. So adding water, it took 7 months before I trusted to put a piece of coral in. Seven months. And I put the frog spawn in, and it started doing well. So a month after that, I decided to move the big piece of frog spawn in, and that did well. And then a couple months after that, so July 24th, 2021, almost exactly a year from the fill, I added SPS. So, and the SPS that I added were simple SPS like red Monty, green Monty, purple Monty, purple Stylo, Forest Fire Digi. So some of the basic SPS corals I added. The orange Setosa, I think, was the same time. And those all did well. So, along that line, I went through a major downer. So the fish were doing great. The tank was like maturing. Obviously, over a year, it was going up and down through different like bacteria settlements, and I had a major bubble algae outbreak where I at first couldn't get nutrients. Like it was like bio-locked. Like it would not test for any nutrients, nothing. And I started dosing nitrate, and I finally got it to spike, but it spiked to like 80 ppm. So at that point, I was able to slowly bring it back down. I didn't have any coral. I had a little bit of fish, and bubble algae started taking over all the rock. And because I didn't have any coral in it, I could fuck all do whatever I wanted. So I used Vibrant, which is an algicide we know now. But for me, without having any coral or anything in there that I really needed, an algicide actually worked. So I just nuked the algae over small doses over 7 weeks. That over that 7 weeks, I quarantined the foxface and got him in the tank, or her, I don't know. And once the bubble algae started dying, and I was able to go mow at it a bunch and just pop it all. And once I started popping it all, he started eating it all. And within like a week and a half, my bubble algae problem, within a week and a half post 7 week treatment, the bubble algae was gone. So
Winner.
So it worked. So I was able to do that. Also along the lines of getting the coral in, I had problems with the purple stylo. So when I added the purple stylo, obviously it was the first group of corals that I added. I had it in a position on the rock, and it kept receding from the base up, and I could not figure out what I was doing wrong. Like, is my tank not going to be able to have purple stylo? Like, that should be a basic coral. So I got in the tank with the lights on, and I saw some of the monster amphipods that are like, I don't know, 2-3 millimeters across, 3-4 millimeters across, actually. So like 1/8 of an inch big amphipods just munching on the fucking stylo from the base up. So I moved the stylo off the rock work. I put it kind of in a suspended area where the amphipods really weren't going to get, because they weren't looking like to climb up the glass and try and munch on something off the glass. And that's when I quarantined my long-nosed hawkfish and my marble wrasse, which is probably still sleeping. I haven't seen him out yet. So I quarantined those 2 fish in an effort to control my amphipod population, which I think was out of control because I didn't have any predators, and it just, the tank hadn't balanced yet. So once I did that, I moved the stylo back down, and it started thriving. And I had one piece of stylo that was maybe an inch tall when I first bought it, and now I have that colony, and that colony. So the stylo is doing well now. So once I started adding SPS, everything started like coming together. August added some more SPS, and that's kind of where it all went. And so that was 2 years ago that I started adding the SPS, and I've probably got 35 different colonies in here. I added all the SPS in 2 waves, and then probably 7 months later, I tried to add a few more. And there's a couple pieces in there from that. And then about a year ago, I added 5 more pieces, and they're doing okay, but they're kind of slow. So like, this is a strawberry shortcake, I think, and that's the base spread, and now it's starting to branch. I anticipate once this goes, it's going to go fast because it's got so many branches it's starting to develop. Back there, I don't even know the names, but that one's starting to branch too. So I anticipate that one's going to take off. There's one behind this stylo you can't see. And then this one, this is like a Medusa or something. Same thing. This pooled over the entire frag plug. And I can't wait for this one to take off. It's just going slow. And then that red robin, that thing's like tripled in size. So I anticipate that going. But I bought that red robin not knowing, I think it's the same coral as this one. So that stinks. I have 2. I could have just fragged it. But so those were added a little bit ago, about a year ago. And I haven't added anything else since. I kind of just sit with it the way it is. So lighting, I run 4 Vipar Spectras. So real basic lighting. I mapped the tank when I first put the rock in, so I knew what the bar readings were. I mean, it only has a blue channel and a white channel. So I think I run it at about 40% blue, 40% white, 20% blue, or maybe reverse, 40% blue, 20% white. So the lights are turned way down, and I'm getting about 400 par at the top at a couple of the top locations, but for the most part, it's 300 to 200, 150 in some of the corners in the bottom, but pretty good spread for a cheap light, and it's growing corals well for me. Maybe they don't color up as well as some other people get with some of their fancier lighting, but mine seems to do fine. I run a Ice Cap K200 skimmer. and 2 Finex 1000 heaters. One's running, one's a backup, run off an Inkbird. And then I have a DCP 10,000, I think, Jabo return pump that feeds the tank. That runs at like 30%. So it doesn't really have to, 35% maybe. So that's turned way down. And then I have a little MaxiJet 1200 that pumps to my frag tank. If we run to the frag tank, so here's kind of my control board. So 3 Casa strips are my controllers, and I'm the controller. And so I have the ability to turn them on and off and monitor power and that kind of stuff, but there's no Hydros or Neptune system on here. I'm doing it myself. I got a Jabo 5-head doser, another Jabo doser I don't use anymore. I dose my own mix of alkalinity with soda ash. So I have to fill up that container every 2 weeks. I dose about 350 milliliters of soda ash mixture every day. And then I have a calcium mix, which is calcium chloride mixed into RO water. I have to fill that up every 4 weeks because I dose about 180 milliliters of that. Then I have Tropic Marin A-, Tropic Marin K+, and magnesium. So that's ESV magnesium mix. I have a 5-gallon bucket of it. I fill that up probably every 8 weeks. I don't use a lot of magnesium. I keep my alk at about 9. I keep my calcium around 400, give or take, 30. So if my calcium's at 380 to 440, I'm fine. Same with alk. My alk's at 8.5 to 9.5, I'm fine. And magnesium, 1380 to 1450. If it's within that range, I don't do shit. I like to try and keep it right in the middle so I can see if I test every week. So if I see something changed in 1 week drastic, then I find out, but usually it changes by a little bit. And if it changes again the next week by a little bit, or it stays the same a couple weeks in a row, that little bit, then maybe I'll adjust. Just hobby test kits, Salford. My phosphate runs around 0.5. My nitrates run around 30. Keep the tank at about 78 degrees. Do 10% water changes once a week. The water changes are pretty simple. I just turn all the pumps off. I turn that bottom valve, let 20 gallons out, turn it back, turn this top valve and turn a pump on, and this vat fills 20 gallons into the main tank. And then I take my RO water up here and just fill it back up into my salt reservoir, mix another 26 gallons of water, and start another week. Reef crystal salt.
Sorry, Jim. How do you know when you've drained 20 gallons? Do you time it?
No, I don't time it. I have this on the side of my tank. So I did a scale. I found out exactly how much every gallon was. So I can see where I'm at. So when I turn all my pumps off, the water level goes right to that 0. And then I can drain it down however many gallons I want to drain. And I know exactly how many I've drained. So that's how I do it. So I can just do that. I have a door here. And then I can just come in here, turn this valve, and then on my vats, I did this eye so I can see where my water is. So right now, I think I have 27 gallons in here ready to mix because I need to do a water change today. And then my RO, So I have 21 gallons of RO, so I got to make some more RO. So
do you have like return pumps in those to mix
so
them? Like,
well, no,
obviously not
this
the
is
RO, but
the RO, no, but in here I have a mixer pump. So just like a regular pump that's blowing in a circular motion to keep the salt mixed. I have a 50-watt heater in there.
nice.
And so that's why I have this heater. So that is a Finex heater that's heating this up. And then I also have like a $50 I can't remember the kind of pump. I can't remember what kind of pump it is, but it's just a pump that's hooked up to this. And when I turn that pump on and turn that valve, water goes back into my main tank. So there's 2 pumps and a heater in the salt vat.
Do you find you have to clean out that salt bucket a
Should
lot
I?
or no?
Or do I?
Do you?
I've never cleaned it.
Nice.
So I should
Well,
probably.
it's a huge pain in the ass, right? So I'm like, I probably wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, I can. It's not. It wouldn't be that bad because that's why I built it with all these unions. So I could unhook this, and I could unhook this, and pull this vat out and clean it. But you can't see in there. Kind of. You see that?
Yeah.
See the crusties? I've never cleaned it. So, so that's that. And then the frag tank is hooked up. So the PVC is a return coming in, and they got one Jabo pump blowing across the top of the frags. So these are just all frags from my main system, except the Hollywood Stunner I ripped out of the main system. It was killing too much shit. So there's a little cyano in here, but I got some nice frags. Some of the stuff is pretty big. You know, if you look at the egg crate is half-inch holes. So that yellow acro is 4 inches across. Some of these are 4-inch across colonies. This is about, I don't know, 5-6 inches.
What's your plan for these corals, Jim? Are you going to sell them, trade them?
I just give them away. Like Alex G's probably got 20 pieces from me, but he gave me this frag tank, so that worked out. Like I'm like, I got corals for you. I don't want to dump them, and that was before I got the frag tank. So I brought them over like 4 corals, 5 corals, and then next time I saw him, I brought over another 6. And then we were just talking, and I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing with this tank?" He said, "I don't use it." I said, "Can I buy it off you?" He's like, "You can have it." So I took it home. So that worked out. I got a massive frog spawn colony here that's probably 15 to 20 polyps I got to figure out what to do with. This might get traded to the fish store for fish. I want to get a Tomini tang in here, but I don't want to quarantine it. So I'm trying to figure out what to do to get something to munch on some algae in here. But it's pretty clean. I mean, other than the cyano, it doesn't really have any problems. You can see it in there.
Oh, yeah, I guess, but yeah. I'm looking at all the coralline, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, coralline. I mean, this piece was all purple, but you can see I zapped it with a laser because it got aptasia on this rock. And this one was all purple too, but I zapped that.
Yeah, the laser makes really short work of coralline. It's really satisfying.
Yeah, it does. It nukes it fast. This is kind of a sad colony. These are 2 colonies. Green Slimer, I think. But they were growing in my main display, and it was one kind of bigger colony trying to grow out from under stuff. And just recently, a fish must have cracked the base, and it was just kind of hanging. So I pulled it. I cut off most of the dead, and put it 2 pieces in here. So We'll see how this goes. I'd like to put this, at least one of these pieces, back in my main tank when I find a spot. But
did you get top of the flatworms, Jim?
You want to see my flatworms? They're in the I don't give a fuck tank.
I don't want to rush.
So here's my I don't give a fuck tank.
Yeah, boy. Looks like my tank.
There's the flatworms. The bubble algae. Nice, huh? These two fish are supposed to make this a NEM tank. Fuck. But they don't go to the anemone. So I don't know what to do with this tank. I mean, I got this is some stuff from my old tank, right? So these little mushrooms were from my old tank. The toadstool, I didn't even realize it was on this rock, and it grew back in 2 spots. There's some SPS in here that's just growing. I know I don't do fucking shit, but I think just for shits and giggles, I'm going to start water changes on this tank. And all I'm going to do is make sure my water level is where it's supposed to be, and then scoop out 2 or 3 buckets every week when I do my main water change, and just dump them in my waste bucket for my RO. And then I'm just going to scoop up a few buckets out of this and dump them back into here. So I'll pull water from this to this. It should only take me like 30 seconds to do, and this will start getting water changes. Which will help this tank, but I don't know if it's even going to matter, because I'm not going to do anything about the bubble algae or the flatworms. So that's the frag system. Again, another Vipar. I need to get a second Vipar on this tank, just because these corals, I'm getting so many corals that the ones on the outer edges, they're not getting any light from the outside. So I need a better spread. So they're kind of they're like the branching corals, the outsides of the branching corals that aren't getting the light, I think, are struggling a little, which is why I kind of got them all towards the middle. But it was designed, my holder was designed for 2. I just bought 1 because I didn't think I had enough coral. But I'm getting enough coral to need 2 lights. That one's a Vipar too. That one originally was a old black box. I have no clue what it was, and it eventually burned out. So I put main tank. So fish. So the fish I have, I've got 4 tangs. So you can see my sailfin, which is probably the boss of the tank, even though they don't fight, but it kind of lets everybody know it's the biggest fish. So that's the boss. I got my tomato clown and the anemone. Supposed to be a bubble tip, but this is what it looks like. Even though it's the same, I mean, the core or the anemones in my I don't do fucking shit tank are offspring of this, or splits. So you can see what this one looks like compared to the ones back here. Same anemone. I don't know what they fucking do. Okay, so sailfin, orange, or tomato clown, long-nosed hawkfish, 2 azure damsels. So this is the boss. He killed 1 azure, so I had 3. He lives in this little hole, and this is his territory. Usually doesn't come over here. This little guy lives in this structure. That is the male chromis that breeds with the females in this area, whose sailfin's not happy. So this is where the chromis fucking happens, and it's that guy. I think this is another male, and he kind of hangs out in this area. and then the females all hang out in this area. And when it's fuck time, they migrate over here, and he ushers them underneath the rock, and they fertilize eggs, and that's it. This guy's doing something. So 7 chromies, powder brown, purple, the rabbit fish. That guy's pissed off that I woke him up early. The lights are on 4 hours before normal, so he's the biggest fish in the tank, though. Under here, got a coral beauty. The RAS is asleep, and there's my yellow, and you can see the fin damage that happened on him, but he's okay. There's the coral beauty. So that's the fish coral wise. So I've got the fathead dendros that are doing really well. They came in not looking very good when I got them. I was at a store about an hour away from my house, and I asked about them. The guy sold them to me for $45. I was like, hell yeah. And only 3 colonies were really showing life. The other 2 were tiny. Now I've got 1 new colony there, or 1 polyp. I guess that's what you might call them, a polyp. And then the other ones are all huge. So it's probably 2 inches across from here to here. So that thing's doing really well. Super cool coral. Areas like this are where I couldn't get to. You can see the Aptasia right there. I've been blasting him, but he goes right into the rock, so I can't totally kill him. This one's so damn translucent that the laser goes right through him. But you can see all the laser marks because I've been trying to get them.
You should write your name on a rock, Jim. That would be so cool.
We'll get there. Okay, so then I got this orange Setosa that's done well. This is a Miyagi tort that started out as a 1-inch frag. I've got this also there. You can see kind of the green. So that has been put in a second spot in my tank in case it has problems in the one spot. The Forest Fire Digi green Spongotus. The green Spongotus is there. And then there's a red polyp Spongotus behind it. You can you see the difference? So that's kind of a green polyp Spongotus. And then you can see that one in the back is a red polyp Spongotus. For scale, this is from here to here is probably 10 inches across.
Wow.
So yeah, this Miyagi tort from here to here is probably a foot, if not more. It's kind of got weird growth tips, but I don't know how they're supposed to grow, and I don't care. It just looks healthy to me.
Dr. Mike B he's here. He's here.
Is he? Maybe he knows if that's an anomaly or if something's wrong.
What's wrong with Jim's tips, Mike?
I need a higher resolution picture to see for sure, but it is a little funky looking.
A little funky looking.
Are you carbon dosing?
Nope.
Not sure then.
So, I mean, everything looks good down here, but maybe it's a flow thing. Maybe they're just getting blasted right there. I did have to adjust my flow a couple times because I found one piece dying because I was blasting the tissue right off of it. But I don't know. It's growing fast. Ooh, look at that. Someone just broke a big piece off. Do something about that.
Stinkers.
That's kind of at the point I'm at is I'm just finding that kind of stuff. Like fish are just running out of space where they used to be able to swim and they're breaking big pieces. So I don't know. That's a 4-inch frag. That do something about. Then I got my frog spawn. So I put one polyp of frog spawn here, one polyp of frog spawn here, and that's what they've grown into. And then I've got a nice colony here that I can't get out. So this guy's just going to keep growing here. And the back, he's probably lost 6 or 7 polyps just because he's getting shaded out. So you can see how I kind of broke away this piece of Monty so that it can get more light. This is the one coral that doesn't do well, even though it's growing well. Like I keep having these tissue issues. So you can see back here, it's kind of chafing like. And it's doing the same thing in a couple spots there and there. But you can see where there's growth, it looks great. Bright green, polyps are out. Looks good, but I keep having issues with it. So I broke a piece off and I moved it to another spot in my tank. Same issues. So it's different light. It's getting different light there, so I know it's not lighting. Growth tips are good, polyps are out, but something happens at the older sections of growth. I don't know. That's the only coral that's got any issues. So then I got, right there is another piece of the Miyagi tort. This colony is, I don't know, a blueberry acro or something. I don't know. But this grows like a weed. This is probably 12 inches. That colony is the same as this colony, totally different growth. So you can see I basically took healthy pieces of coral and spread them around my tank so that I didn't have to buy more coral. And also, like if one colony died over here, I had another colony over here, and that was before I had a frag tank. So back here I got some bird's nests, and that is kind of a wimpy coral. And this little Hulk Digi is kind of growing in here. I got another little Hulk Digi that will not grow down here. Little Sophastria. And then this coral is interesting because you can see this used to be one colony. And then this piece and this piece back here broke off because a fish came flying through and knocked it into the frog spawn. So I found it in the frog spawn and it looked like half the tissue was dead. So I glued it back here, and I knew it was a healthy spot. I knew the coral liked the spot. So I just waited to see if it could recover. And it has almost fully recovered in about a 1-month period. The only area that's still trying to recover is this little patch and this tip. Other than that, it's totally bounced back. So I know a lot of people say, oh, you're seeing tissue loss, break that piece off. I didn't. I just was like, well, let's see if it can recover. And it did. I put a piece of Setosa here just to spread it out in my tank. This guy doesn't really grow, but you can see the polyps are out. My 2 frags. This colony, Pusmacosa or whatever it's called, I think. It's cool. So that's a slow grower, but it's a really cool coral, and I can't wait for it to be bigger. This is a piece that Russ gave Zach, I believe. This is the Miami Chalice. This is a cool colony. I love the texture of this piece. It's just a cool coral. Some orange lepto. My trumpet coral. More frog spawn. I think, Zach, you have a ton of this. You said nobody's buying it. I love it, but it just doesn't grow very fast in here. I have to keep breaking the Montes away, but it doesn't get a lot of light because these other corals have grown so much.
There's so much growth, man.
Yeah. I love the way these are just like, it's almost like a race. You can see the green is trying to race out from under the red, and they're just spiraling upwards. So this is kind of a cool interaction between the two, and I'll just let it go. This is acro, like kind of a tan acro, but it's got really cool pink tips. It's too early in the morning for the pink because I woke these up way out of sleep. Another digi. So this digi's growing pretty good. Another spongotus. In here I have a green acro that is just a slow grower. And you can kind of see it right there. I'm gonna have to get that out somehow because it's not gonna survive with the growth rate of this purple blueberry thing. So flow, I just have a Jabo pump up there, a couple maxi jets, and another Jabo pump. And then one Jabo pump back here to try and blast the back. You can see some of my structures in the back. The fish push all the sand out from the back. I don't vacuum the sand. I let the fish mix it up, and that's what I get. So they do a pretty good job of mixing the sand up, and I haven't vacuumed in probably a year and a half. I can't think of anything else. Feed it. I got a Eheim feeder that feeds, is it the TBO pellets twice a day? And then I feed PE mysis once a day in the evenings, frozen. And so I feed 3 times a day. And this is kind of what I get. So it's kind of a low tech, cheap equipment system, but it's been running for 3 years now, and it seems to be doing well.
It looks awesome.
You guys got any questions?
What's the biggest coral that you started with, Jim? Like when you started it out, was it like, because you said a lot of them are 1-inch frags, like were there like a 6-inch colony that you decided to throw in there at some point, or were they all just like
they were all 1-inch frags? Like if I'd go to a frag swap, like I would like, for instance, the only what I would say like expensive coral I have, so this piece was, at a frag swap was maybe like a $80 piece, but I talked him into selling me a piece that was like a 1/2 inch tall for like $30 if I bought a second piece of something that was a 1/2 inch tall for $30. So
that's fucking cool.
So this was a 1/2 inch piece of coral. This was probably the biggest piece just because it was on a 1-inch tile and it was almost covering the whole tile. Other than that, I mean, this was 2 polyps, and you can see now I've got about 75. Nothing was big. Everything was 1 inch or less. The forest fire digi was a 2-inch piece, 90% dead. And the guy's like, here, take this and see if you can get this going too. So, and then
You can't see me, but I'm shaking my head right now. It's
it
unreal.
just takes time.
Yeah.
So the forest fire started here. And this is a new area. You can see these are all kind of younger corals. That's because this is where the Hollywood stutter was. And the Hollywood stutter had grown over everything and had almost completely killed the forest fire on this side. So I yanked the Hollywood stutter out. Bear with me 1 second. You're going to get blinded. I'm going to put the top up so you can see how I hung the lights. All right, just a sec. Ron, edit.
Yeah, I'll get to it.
You'll get to it. All right. So the lights are hung. They flip up with the hood. And there are, I don't know if you can see them. There's struts that help hold it. And then let's see top down views. Let me turn these pumps off. Okay. All right, we're back. So here's a top down view. Corals are growing
changed
great.
the scale of all the corals. They're absolutely huge. Did you write something there, Jim?
Cursive. Kids don't know how to write like that anymore.
Nice.
So yeah, you can see, and you can really see this one, how some of the unhealthy pieces are kind of losing tissue, but the tips are really good. So I don't know. You can see the spongotus back there. Yeah. So just a couple top, and you can see how kind of small my openings are to be able to get rock structures into this thing. That's that. That's the spot, Ron. Can't see it from the front.
Love it.
Oh, I got this Sophastria too. This one's really cool, especially under blues, but I don't run blues. But it's starting to spread out. I had it up here and I decided I wanted some acros up here when I got the new ones. So I glued it down here, and it'll be cool if it grows down here and just kind of spreads around the base of that rock.
They don't need a ton of light. I'll be right.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be okay. Anything else? Anything you guys got? Other questions? Oh, I've got like a cabinet with shit in it. So this is where I keep my tools, anything I need. So my just hoses and shit like that. So, you know, anything I need. So, and I use I've got Zach appreciates this. I have my my salinity tester with my sulfur kits right here.
Ah,
So I use that, but I have I have a hydrometer that I use to double check it with. And then I also have a refractometer that I use. So that's like maybe 3 or 4 weeks. I'll trust that before I calibrate with the 2 others. It's just easier. Come on, what other questions you guys got? Anything?
Hey, how long have you been dosing the Tropic Marin and K?
Probably a year now. Probably a year, if not a little more. So I dose 8 milliliters a day, and I'm on to my 4th bottles, and I bought 1,000 milliliter bottles. So however long that backs up, so 4,000 milliliters divided by, or 3,000 because I'm on my 4th bottles. So 3,000 divided by 8 would tell you how long, how many weeks.
What would you say changed when you started dosing it that's then made you keep ordering?
Nothing, but knowing that I'm using up trace elements, so I need to replenish them somehow. So I just figured that was an all-in-one dose. But I wanted to get isolate, but my local fish store had the A- and K+ Tropic Marin stuff. So I'm like, fuck it. I just bought it and started doing it, and nothing went south. The only thing that I tried that things appeared to go south was that, what was that shit, Ron? The ammonia dosing, or the amino dosing, what is that?
Like Too Little Fishy.
Yeah, from
amino.
What's his name?
Acropower.
Yeah, Acropower. I started dosing Acropower, and this one coral lost all its color. And I figure I already have high nutrients. Maybe that's just overdosing the aminos. So I stopped after 2 weeks.
Did you try the big dump technique rather than dosing every night though?
Yeah, I did, because according to Julian, the every other night little doses actually doesn't do anything. So I thought, well, if I'm either going to not do anything and waste my money, or I'm going to do what he says, and doing what he says looked bad. So I stopped.
Yep, same here.
So, other than that, I'm not dosing anything. What you saw in my dosers is the only thing I put in the tank other than food. Carbon, I do run carbon. So I have a dual reactor. It's dark. Let me turn lights on now. So this was set up to run GFO and carbon, but right now I'm just running carbon. I haven't run GFO in, I don't know, 8 months. So, but I'm thinking about it. My phosphate crept up from 0.25 to 0.5. I don't know why, but something made it creep up. So if it creeps up past 0.5, I probably will throw a quarter cup of GFO in there and just see what happens. Maybe slowly bring it down a little bit. I have GFO on hand, so I could easily put it in there and just see what happens. Nothing big, maybe just a little bit. Carbon, I switch out every 4 weeks, about a cup and a half. Really, everything in this tank is just slow and steady. I don't do anything crazy. I don't use any crazy equipment. I just am consistent, and it's just slow and steady. I test every week, but don't make changes unless something's happening, and I just continue doing the same thing.
I can't believe that you don't clean your sand. I mean, from here, it looks absolutely pristine.
Well, the fish do it. The RAF does it. You can see the clown doesn't like anything over here by the anemone. So it pushes all the sand up front. And I mean, if you call it cleaning, I mean, when I go in and clean the glass, I'll take my scraper and I'll push all the sand back there. So then over the next 2 weeks, it pushes all the sand back to the front. The RAS likes to live in the sand here. So at night, it'll mix up this sand. Other than that, I mean, yeah, you can see there's coral skeletons everywhere. I don't know how, but I'll get underneath and break this piece off. It's just getting smothered. And this would be better room for the fish to swim through than to have that dead coral there. Any other questions? I think I got to go to Fritz Salt, but saltwater aquarium still a decent price on a box of reef crystals. So maybe I'll buy a couple boxes and hold on to them before I have to make a decision.
Hey, check your local Petco. Check the Petco site and see if they have local pickup. My wife just picked up 2 buckets for Alyssa. What do you end up picking those buckets up for? Those 2 buckets for 120. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, maybe I think saltwater had $75 for a box. Isn't that what someone shared? You shared maybe, Zach?
Yeah. Because I lied earlier. I was a liar.
Yeah. So the cool thing about my tank is it may not be, over 200 gallons, but because it's 8 feet long and because I built different structures, there's habitat. Like I can tell you where the fish are going to be. Like it's long enough where this chromis, this is his territory. It's been how long we've been talking? These are still hanging out over here. This is where they live. It's big enough that they can be happy in this area. This guy lives over here. Little guy, look for him over here. Just the other day, I came down to feed the tank and he was over here. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? He doesn't come over here. And by the time I went to feed, he was back over here and just hanging out over here. So they have their own territory. This spot right here, it's kind of dead. Little sponge growing. This is where that green what is that colony called? Whatever it is, what's in my frag tank. It was growing, trying to come out here into this opening. But it was getting starved out. The base was getting too brittle. And a fish must have swam through that hole and cracked the base. So now I have kind of a hole here, but I can't add a coral here because it will never grow. So I'm just going to have to let these other corals fill in the gap.
They sure assholes.
Yeah. Powder brown. This is probably the most outgoing fish in the tank. I feel bad. Like he needs more room to swim because this is what he does. He just loves the 8 feet. So I enjoy watching him swim, but I also feel bad a little bit that he doesn't have more room to swim because I can see how much he loves it. So, but I also can't feel bad because he might have gotten eaten by a bigger fish if he was still in the ocean.
I think
who knows?
Really happy.
Yeah, I think he looks happy too.
He looks healthy as well. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, the fish are fat.
He's getting his steps in.
Yeah, he's getting his steps in. I mean, they're fat fish. So they're all healthy. Let's see that from this end because he'll come right at us. Fat. So they look healthy to me. I'm happy with them. I keep an eye on them. I
just love that you're pointing out fish and just saying fat.
Well, aren't they? I mean, they don't look unhealthily flat. Like they don't look obese, but
I just hope
They look
can't
good.
fucking hear you. That's all.
So you got 4 tangs. You're gonna end up with some fighting. So every once in a while, I'll see a fight wound, like maybe the yellow tang, the rear fin. I don't know the scientific terms, but maybe the rear fin's got a tear. So I'll know it was in a fight, and the next day I'll notice that the rear fin has already healed up. I'll be like, okay, the tank's in a good place. You know, if the fish can heal that quickly, then the water's clean and it's healthy for them.
There's absolutely no doubt you're doing something right, Jim. Your tank is absolutely phenomenal, and it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that most have. It's phenomenal.
Well, thanks, Ron. Any other questions?
No, sir. No, just enjoying it.
I've got to go, but it's been awesome, Jim. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know what else you guys want to see.
If you had to pick a favorite coral and a favorite fish, what would you pick?
My
Like
favorite.
you walk in and you see, oh yeah, those guys. Those are cool.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want to deal with a whole tank of NPS.
Yeah.
Like, it's cool that I have this one colony.
Yeah.
And it's an awesome looking coral. You know?
Yeah.
How do you feed that, Jim? Do you have like an angled feeder or something?
No. So when I feed when this is off. It's still off. Hold on, I gotta turn the pump back on.
I was gonna say, because whenever you added those originally, weren't you getting issues with the food getting stuck in an acro or something?
Yeah, I thought that was the problem, because when I changed the way I was feeding it, the acro seemed to get better, but that changed.
Gotcha.
So I don't know exactly. Well, okay. So when this guy blows, this is for Kyle. This is what causes issues in your tank, is moving your gyre. So when this blows, it does this circular motion, right? So it's sucking just as much as it's blowing. And this is what it does.
Mm-hmm.
So I wait till this turns off, and then I dump my frozen in the center section down this way. I just dump it, and then I swoosh the water. So the mysis all kind of falls down here. And then as soon as that turns back on, it sucks all the mysis right under that cap, right into the NPS.
Nice.
And it just feeds the shit out of them, and they're just happy as hell.
That's really cool that you've just got a way of feeding the entire tank and they get fed. Brilliant.
Yeah. And then maybe every once in a while I decide maybe, the anemone and, some of the trumpets maybe want a little more. So like I'll dump a little bit in this direction, and that gyro will suck it around, and this side will get fed, and then this side will get fed. So that's the way I feed them. I'm just happy I'm growing healthy SPS. Like this Miyagi tort is awesome. Like, did I think this is what the colony was going to look like when I had a 1/2-inch frag? Not a chance.
That's kind of the unusual growth habit. It's almost like you've got a kind of base structure, and then you've got like single trees coming off of it.
Yeah, and some of the growth habits is flow, and some of it is fish. Like this area here. This area kind of grew the way it was growing because this is a home for fish. So they continually come in here. And I believe that as they come in here, they rub against the corals, and the corals grow kind of in a direction around where the fish usually is. So that's an area that's grown because of corals. This area, this just grows like there's 5 different coral colonies in this picture, I think. So, I mean, shit just grows. I don't know what to do. This bird's nest is going to eventually probably kill itself. I'm at a point where I need probably to do some heavy fragging. Like maybe this entire piece here needs to come off. That's like 5 inches. But how am I going to frag that? Look at the base of that. Fuck.
That would give you good access to the green one that's struggling though, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, I don't really care about this Gongotus. I mean, that's growing in the back.
Yeah,
but you mean this?
Is there not
one?
macro in there as well?
Well,
No,
that's
no. Is there not a
the
green
brain
up above and amongst that big one you were just talking about?
That's where it got broken out. Right there, there was that Slimer. That's now in the frag tank.
I thought earlier there was an acro right in amongst that huge big colony.
Oh, there is. Yeah, there is. That one.
Yeah, so I was wondering if you break off that side of that colony, you might be able to get access to that.
Yeah, I don't know what to do there. That might work. I'm afraid some of these colonies are so big that if I decide to frag them, you can see it right in there. I'm gonna break off maybe more than I wanted to. Because look, I mean, this thing started out at little base.
My best thoughts would be to go, maybe instead of aiming for a massive chunk at one time, just do smaller and smaller branches.
Yeah. Yeah, like you can see, there are a lot of branches I could frag here.
And then that'll give you access to your base. Then you can focus on the base.
Yeah.
I mean
look at the polyps.
Little,
so cool.
Little flowers.
That is a happy girl.
So, yeah, that's a thought. I mean, the Monty. This was, I don't remember this on the glass a week ago, but it's now on the back. Acrylic, sorry. It's just, everything's just growing too much at this point.
I wish it could. Magnesium consumption so low with so much Monty.
I don't know. I only add 80 or 100 milliliters of the ESV a week. So like, I don't know, 20 milliliters a day. Less than 20 milliliters.
I haven't tested that in a while. Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah. I just saw the Coral Beauty nip at my so I know that's why this guy's not growing. He's food.
So the angel's just harvesting it just slowly.
Yeah, just lets it live enough that it can come back for a snack. So,
can you do me a favor, Jim, just because we're recording, is talk us through your redundancy in your heating system?
Okay. So I run 2,000 watt heaters, and they're just Finex titanium heaters with a heat control in them. So here's each heater's individual controller, and they're running on my Inkbird. This is probably the only real controller I have, is that Inkbird controller. So what I do is I run my primary heater to run at 78 degrees. So this is running, keeping it at 78 degrees. My Inkbird is set to alarm it and shut off at 80 degrees. Or not alarm, it will just run to 80 degrees. If it runs 80 degrees, this is going to turn it off. This is set to run at 80 degrees. So since this turns it off at 80 degrees, if this runs, the Inkbird will shut it off at 80 and I won't melt my tank. If this fails and doesn't heat, this heater is set to run at 76 degrees, and the Inkbird is set to give me an alarm at 76 degrees. So if this completely fails, I'll get an alarm. this heater will back it up and keep it at 76 so it doesn't get any colder. And I'll know that I need to buy a new heater. I'll buy a new heater. I'll toss the main. I'll move this to my new main, and I'll put my new heater as my backup. And they typically last me about a year to a year and a half. So this heater is running at 78. This will turn it off if it runs, and this will catch up if it fails. So that's the way I have everything set up as redundant.
I think more people need to think about this. BRS gave me a lot of good and bad knowledge when I started my new reefer system, but that's one thing that I have to thank them for, is going through all the redundancy and, you know, either using your Apex as your main controller or not. And I know there's multiple opinions on that. But yeah, it definitely helped me.
Yeah. I mean, I could run it the other way, and I could have this controlling it, and this could shut off at, say, 80, and this could keep it at 78. But I don't know. I just run it this way. This is what's worked. I've got a little duet at ATO top off.
Has your redundancy for your heaters ever kicked in and saved the day?
No, I never had it run where the Apex shut off at, or the Inkbird shut off at 80. I've never had the heater run, and I'm not so worried about it because I have the Inkbird there. So I would have to have a dual failure, which I don't think will happen. And then, like, power. I have a USB that my return pump is hooked into. So if my USB shuts off, or if my power goes out, my return pump still moves water. So I have it will run, I tested it, it'll run about 3 hours, my return pump. And then I have a generator that I can plug in outside and just run a cord, and then I can run everything off the generator.
So is your return the only thing plugged into the UPS battery backup?
Yeah, that's the only thing, and it's what I'm most worried about is the water movement staying, so it'll keep oxygenation in the tank. My basement's a pretty stable, like 70 degrees, so I'm not so worried about temperature. So my biggest concern would be oxygenation in the fish, and everything's running out of air.
Yeah, also running the heater from the battery backup destroys it really quickly.
Yeah. If I ran the heater on that battery backup, it'd probably be like 10 minutes if the heater was having to kick on. So that gives me enough time that I can, if I'm not here, my wife tells me, or I realize like something's not running at night, I can come down here, and gives me some time to get the generator going. And then even if I get, 2.5 hours of run out of that, I still know I have a couple hours before I really have problems. So I say I got like 4.5, 5 hours before there would be something catastrophic starting to happen. So
do you own your own generator, or would you have to rent one in an emergency?
No, I have an inverter generator outside in my garage. So I fire it up every once in a while just to keep it clean and running. And the only thing I want to do is I want to get a manual box flip switch. So I want to get a box on this wall that I just can plug a 30 amp plug from my generator into a plug on the outside of my house. And if I did that, then I could have a separate breaker box that my generator would be plugged into, and I could select what breakers I turn on, and I could turn on everything that runs the fish tank, and then I could turn on like our home refrigerator and maybe the heater if it's in winter, and run the furnace off of the generator.
Yeah, so we've got the opposite brain set. So I have all of that, and I don't have a fucking generator.
Oh,
I've got the socket on the outside of the building. I've even got the cable made. I don't own a generator.
yeah, I bought the generator. I found it. It's a Champion 1100 watt inverter generator. I wanted the inverter generator. I don't know a lot about energy, but I wanted the inverter generator just because it's supposed to have cleaner energy and not as fluctuating of output as just a raw generator.
Yeah, it's more of a
Yes.
sine wave or something. What's the term? I think it's a
Yeah,
sine.
fine waves.
Yeah, so with all this being fine electrical, like, you know, with little transmitters and shit, I don't want to turn on a generator and end up burning out 5 or 6 pieces of equipment because the energy's raw.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good thing to have mentioned. That's good advice.
I think I spent. So I had engineered off of many different people's sites, like buying an inverter, buying batteries, how many batteries could run what. I calculated all the wattages used by all my equipment, and buying little meters and building my own backup battery system. And like I was at like $600, and I had like figured I had like 8 hours of runtime in my tank. And I was like, well, another battery will cost me $200. So at $800, I could get, 13 hours. And at another at 1,000, I could get 14, 16 hours. And I'm like, well, the fucking generator costs me $900. Fuck it. I'm just buying the damn generator.
And is the generator, does it just run on petrol?
Yeah, it runs on petrol. For $200, I could buy a kit that would turn it into tri-fuel, and then I could run it on propane or natural gas. I haven't done that yet. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I won't. But
you're only limited in runtime to how much fuel you've got. Then, so that obviously makes far more sense than 6,000 batteries. Because if your power is off for 22 hours and you've only got enough power for 18, you're just going to kick yourself in the nuts.
Yeah, and I told my wife we'll get a switch, so the refrigerator, we won't lose all our food. If it's winter, we'll have a furnace. The house runs on 2 furnaces, but I would anticipate only running maybe the first floor furnace if there was a problem.
No, the fucking basement, surely.
The
Everyone
basement.
in the basement. Everyone in
The basement.
Turn that fucking off.
The basement just is residual from the first floor, because the first floor is a larger furnace than the second floor furnace. So yeah, I would run the first floor furnace, which would a little bit feed the basement, and then the heat would transfer upstairs too, because most of our first floor is 2-story, so the heat would go up. So that in and of itself, it's worth it to have a generator for the house. And I just have to spend $750 on one of those manual flip switches and get a electrician out. I'll run electrical, and I'll hook up plugs or move plugs, but I don't touch breaker boxes. So
see?
Real electrician.
Yeah, it's worth its weight in gold getting it all done properly. There's no point in having all of the redundancy that you need, and then when the power goes off, you fucked it up because you put something in the wrong place. Or
yeah,
you melt something down or burn your house down.
Right. So that's probably the only thing left I need to do. But I would say this tank is as much on autopilot as you can put a tank on autopilot.
Yeah, with no controller.
Yeah, no controller. So, I mean, what do I do? I feed every night. And that's just like, I look at the tank, I feed, I check my Inkbird, and I also have a little thermometer down there in the sump. Can you see it? So I check the thermometer, and I walk to the back to feed the other fish, and I glance at the Inkbird. So I check my heat just when I'm here, and then I dump food in. And then every 2 weeks, I have to mix up more elk. The biggest pain in the ass to that is I got 6 1/3 cup of RO water that I got to throw in the microwave for 3 minutes before I add the soda ash to it. Otherwise, the soda ash doesn't dissolve all the way. So I heat the water up for 3 minutes. So I have to fill up some glass container, bring it upstairs, put it in the microwave for 3 minutes, come back down. And in order to fill up my elk container, I need to do that 3 times. So it's like 20 cups of ROD water mix 5,000 milliliters of elk.
Sounds to me like you need a fish room microwave.
I do need a microwave. I was thinking that. Maybe I just get a microwave down here. I actually probably have one somewhere in this basement from like an old house. But so that would save me time, because I spent 3 minutes times 3, 9 minutes plus going upstairs. So every 2 weeks I have to do about 25 minutes of work mixing elk. And then 2 weeks past that, so every 4 weeks I also have to mix up the calcium chloride, which I don't need to heat that up. So on average, maybe I spend an hour when I have to do everything.
Sounds to me if you got a microwave though, you're going to miss out on some fundamental cardio.
Yeah, I won't get as many steps, but I got hockey every Sunday, so that catches me up. So yeah.
Your tank's absolutely beautiful, Jim. It really is.
Thanks. Any other questions?
I'd be gobsmacked if Zach can't come up with something.
I'm thinking. No, I don't know, man. I really appreciate not just your tank, but honestly, just your patience. I think that's, I don't think that's talked about enough in this hobby. Is whenever you were talking about your setup and your setup strategy and taking, however long, I think it was like 7, 9 months or something like that, and just letting stuff cook instead of just trying to cram everything into like I'll be honest, I did the opposite, being super cocky, got away with it. I think I had my tank running 2 weeks before I hit last year's frag swap, brought home 25 corals. I think I've only lost 1 or 2 pieces from the original batch from my run of dinos last November. So I think there's a million different ways to skin cat, but I think for most people, I think your way would be significantly better instead of my cocky, asshole way. But
I think I agree, but the thing that I look back on with you hear a lot of the advanced aquarists saying, get corals in right away because bacteria that's coming along with the corals will help your tank go through its waves or whatever. I would have never been able to deal with the problems I had with bubble algae if I had. I know I would have fucked with corals if they were in the tank for 6 months when I decided to put a shit ton of vibrant in my tank. So I would have been going, I don't know what it would have put me into a tailspin that I then would have been trying to get out of.
Right.
So by not putting the coral in, I had free reign to take care of any problems with algae or other things. And didn't have to worry, is this going to kill my coral? Well, I don't have anything in there. So yeah, I didn't put SPS in for 1 year from the moment I put water in the tank.
I'm in the same camp as Zach. I just listened to every single little bit of information in my years on YouTube, believed everything I heard stupidly. But, listening to Jake in particular and Reef Builders saying, why are you waiting? Just get the coral in. They're self-acclimating, I think was his exact words. And And it worked for me. And I have to admit, it did work for me. Did it then bite me in the arse further down the road? Who knows? I don't know what it is that's happened. But yeah, I think your way, I would definitely be more inclined to tell a new hobbyist to do it your way than mine.
Yeah. I think these fish are trying to spawn. That's why this fish was starting to come out and come around.
Well, before we started recording, one of your chromis was laying eggs.
No.
Yeah, telling you.
See, these fish don't hang out together. There's something going on that the little guy's going into the bigger one's home. Something's going on here.
Yeah, one of your green chromis was doing the old egg lay thing in the middle of that rock there.
This one? No, they do it right here. Every time they do it here. This guy's just waiting till the females are ready.
Maybe he just had an
Because
arse. I don't know.
when the females are ready, they come over here. They come over here. Otherwise, they don't go over there. And so it's weird. There's a whole it's a whole little system. There's a big enough area where they can do what they want to do in different spots. It's like a perfect size.
So here's a question. How come you don't have any gobies?
Right? I tried a mandarin. I put it in my I don't do fucking shit tank when I did do fucking shit with it. And it didn't survive, and I didn't want to try another one. That was kind of towards the beginning of this one, so it would have been in before all the fish had established. I don't think one would do well in here now. I think the large wrasse would probably harass it because the large wrasse likes to control the bottom of the tank. That's where it's hunting all day long. So I don't know if that would do it. I had 3 tries with a diamond goby, and every fucking one found a hole in the top of the tank to jump out of.
Considering how locked down your tank is and narrow the top is, and you've got your net covers, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, so that's frustrating. So I didn't get another one. So right now I would not add another one because I would be afraid the wrasse would attack it. But I did try at the beginning.
I still remember the first time I saw a goby sifting through sand and thought it was, the shop I was in had a flame angel and huge colourful tangs and beautiful wrasses, and here's this little beige thing with a couple of gold spots on it munching on the sand, and I was just completely captivated by it. I thought it was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I like the diamond gobies with the gold kind of strips.
Yeah,
I think they're really pretty.
I love the Russ's wee tank as well with the shrimp.
Yeah,
that's an amazing pairing. I love it. I think everybody after watching his tank tour wanted that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think they're amazing. I actually don't think I have any shrimp left in this tank either. I had a cleaner. It lived under the red Monty over there. And about a month and a half ago, I noticed I didn't notice it anymore. It never came out during the day.
Did your fish
not even
like a little cleaning station?
No, it was underneath the red Monty. I could not see it. Maybe behind the red Monty back there was a cleaning station that I couldn't see. But the fish was always, or the shrimp was always under here to the point where I couldn't even see it. So I just recently realized that it was completely gone. I've got the coral banded shrimp in the back in the I don't do fucking shit tank. I've thought about pulling that out and putting it in here. But I don't want to transfer any of those fucking worms into this tank or those flatworms. So I think that tank's just going to stay what it is.
Well, this has been absolutely incredible, Jim. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's one of my favorite tanks on the planet. I think it's incredible. I think the dimensions, I think how little you do to it, the colors, the placement of the coral, the fact that you've done it on a budget, the fact you've cut corals and put them in multiple places in the tank to make it fill up without spending more money on corals. I think your rock structure is inspiring. I think how you've done it is incredible. Yeah, I just love it. So thanks.
Thanks.
Any other questions, Mr. Dub?
No, not that I can think of. No, I do appreciate it, Jim. Thank you for your time today, man.
Yeah, no problem. I enjoy doing these. It's fun getting together with you guys.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, and this one's now locked in time.
Yeah, I never had one filmed.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Jim. All
right, guys.
I'll get this all tidied up and then get it uploaded to YouTube.
All right, we'll chat later.
Will do. Have a good day, guys.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.